RJ, the Kraken do not extend the winning streak to 3 games to open up the 2025-2026 season. However, they do extend the point streak to 3 games as they drop this one in overtime to Montreal. This was not a bad game. Like there were some moments or whatever, but I don't know. I'm walking out of this one feeling fairly positive about things.
I am too. I was entertained for sure. I think this game can teach the Kraken some valuable lessons. I think they showed great resilience. I think they showed that they can outscore their mistakes, which I really didn't think this team was capable of, just given the way that Lane Lambert has had them playing. But that's a positive sign to me. I just think the main takeaway from this one is you're going to want to limit your mistakes because you can outscore them, but only to a point. And I think that's the lesson the Kraken learned here, where this is probably not going to be a popular thing to say, but if they had found a way to win this one in overtime, I'd worry about the psychological effect that might have going forward about what they think they can get away with. They still get a point, but I think they also get a valuable lesson they can learn.
I totally agree with you, and we can get into all of that in just a little bit here. As we get underway on Emerald City Hockey Postgame Live, thanks everybody for joining us. Already huge numbers in here for this one, and of course, want to thank our wonderful sponsor, Queen Anne Beerhall, for sponsoring these postgame lives. They will all season long. RJ, Mariners coming back up 2-0, and it seems like a good time to remind everybody that the hall at Occidental is open right down there by T-Mobile Stadium. So even if you can't get into the Mariners game, I know that's a pretty pricey ticket, you can still be down there, enjoy the vibes, watch at the beer hall, and still be a part of the experience as the Mariners come home here during the ALCS.
Yeah, and you said right by T-Mobile Park. I mean, it is right there, right across the street. I mean, it is the best place to be if you are not in the park yourself. It is a great new venue. I don't know how they managed to get that spot, but it is awesome. So definitely check it out. I mean, it's going to be rocking for these couple Mariners games. Up 2-0. I'm so excited.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not a baseball guy, but I've been following baseball the last couple of weeks.
I've watched so much Mariners in the last couple of weeks. It's been a lot for sure. But all good stuff for sure. And mostly good stuff here for the Kraken in this one. They lose 5-4, but I'm kind of with you. Like, there was more offensive punch from the Kraken in this one than I kind of anticipated them having. I think that, we talked a lot yesterday on the pod about what is this team going to look like when they're trailing in a game. We had not seen that until tonight. Turns out they're going to stay battling. They're not going to compromise totally their defense to try to sell out and get back in it. They're going to take advantage of things like power play opportunities. That's how they get their first goal. That's how they tied the game at 1. And they're just going to keep up with the strong work ethic that we've seen so far under Coach Lane Lambert.
Right. And the offensive punch is super important. And the way that they score too, it's in really sustainable ways, I think, outside of maybe the Yanni Newman goal, which was a little fluky, but they're scoring from going to the net. They're scoring from having a power play that moves the puck around really quickly and is setting up the kind of chances that they want to set up. A lot of these goals seem repeatable for the Kraken. And so that's a really positive sign for me. These all seem pretty legit. And so they weren't intimidated by trailing either. They gave up that first goal, and I was really wondering how they'd respond. And they were trailing multiple times in this game, and every single time they responded thinking like, yeah, we can tie this game. They were unfazed.
Right. And then they eventually work themselves into a position where they have a lead late into the game, and unfortunately not able to kind of take care of business in regulation there. We'll get to that. But I just think, whether it's scoring on the power play, beautiful feed from Shane Wright over to Jaden Schwartz, taking advantage of that space that Montreal gave him down low. You get the puck luck goal from Yanni Newman, like you talked about. The Jamie Alexiak goal, great seeing eye shot. But again, there was a lot of traffic in front. Like, this is what we've been talking about. Yeah.
It's layers of traffic. Montembeault couldn't see it at all.
Yeah, it works. And then, of course, the Jared McCann goal is just, Jared McCann being Jared McCann and being a really good player. But I'm with you that these are sustainable. This looks like, they're going to be able to get enough offense that even if they do have a game like this one where they give up more goals than I'm sure Lane Lambert and the coaching staff wants them to be giving up, they're going to still be able to be in it, right? If they give up 2 or 3 goals, it doesn't just mean an automatic L and we should just be looking forward to the next game. They're going to be able to battle back, and in cases like tonight, go to overtime and still get a point in the standings. And so I think that that's a big kind of lesson for all of us on the outside looking in at what this team's going to be able to do this season. Can't wait to get to these super chats here. First one from the Comic Binge. We got a point. I'm not even mad. Appreciate the super chat there from Comic Binge. And yeah, I don't think there's too much to be mad at with this one, right? Like I'm sure, again, coaching staff's not going to love that you gave up the goal lead there at the end of the game. But I think, again, if you're a fan coming off of last year, coming off of year 3, the resilience, the battle from this team, them doing the right things pretty consistently, them battling through a rough first period again and not letting things get out of hand. When they kind of started off a little bit slow and sluggish and couldn't really keep up with Montreal through that first 10 minutes. These are all the things that fans have just been wanting for nearly 24 months now at this point from this team. And it really does feel like this group is delivering so far.
And when you look at the big picture too, if you're ultimately trying to make the playoffs, 5 points out of 6 in your first 3 games is pretty darn good. You really can't complain about that as a whole. I wouldn't have thought it would come this way. I would think maybe you drop a point to Vegas or something if you just told me off the bat, but that's absolutely fine. You can take that. And if you bank points every game, you're going to make the playoffs. So can't be too disappointed with this one. I think this one actually looks worse in the small picture than in the big picture. In the big picture, you take it. In the small picture, like, okay, there's some things we need to clean up.
Right. I'm with you. Gary with the big super chat here. Appreciate it, Gary. Hope you're doing well. Should have won in regulation, but overtime hockey is always entertaining. Finally seeing net front pressure leading to goals. Keep it up. Definitely hope that they keep up the net front pressure. It has been nice, RJ, that they have been rewarded really in all 3 of the games that they've played this year with that net front pressure and presence, because hopefully that's going to teach them that, yeah, it's worth the effort. It's worth keeping, at it. And we go out there and we score goals this way.
Exactly. And I love seeing that kind of thing being rewarded because it just as easily could not. That's a great shot from Jamie Alexiak. He just as easily could have missed the net, or, it's not guaranteed you find that perfect spot. But I think this is important. Really, I think both ways. They just learned a lot of important lessons tonight about doing the right things. I think they got rewarded. Doing the wrong things, I think they got punished for it. And that's the kind of reinforcement that you kind of want to see early on in the season.
Right. And we can talk about that because, as Gary pointed out, probably should have won in regulation in this one. They do give up that goal to Ivan Demidov, of course. I dropped him yesterday on my fantasy hockey team. So it was inevitable. But, I look at that sequence and kind of how that all breaks down. And the bottom line was they just could not get out of their zone, right? Like we were just not seeing those breakouts that we were used to seeing from them.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I look at this game and I think about it, and I think back to a comment that Viren made at some point here in chat, talking about how playing a mistake-free game is not a sustainable strategy. And I agree with you completely there. And so the way I see it, you can't expect yourself to score 5 goals to win a game. You just can't count on that, right?
Yeah.
There are 2 goals that really bug me here because I think you can expect to score 3 and win the game. 3 or 4 is okay, but there's 2 goals against that really bother me. And the first one is the first Caulfield goal where Chandler Stevenson just throws a blind pass up the middle, turns it over. Caulfield puts it right in the net. Those are the kind of mistakes that you just cannot make if you're trying to win games the way the Kraken have to this season. That is handing the other team a goal. Can't afford it. And I thought that was going to be the difference in this game.
I did too.
And then, yeah. And then the second one is that power play goal from Demidov. Beautiful play from him. I think once you're already in that situation, you're kind of at the mercy of a really talented team with really talented players who can do stuff like that. I have an issue with the late penalty from Mason Marchment. And we know this is something that he tends to do. This is the first penalty I think that's really cost them this season from him in an untimely moment. Kind of the reputation from with Dallas as well, but you have to limit those sort of things. Once you're already short late in the game, then it's already dicey.
Yeah, and you know what? He also kind of had a little bit of an issue in coverage coming back on the first goal, the Alex Newhook goal back in the first period. And one of the things that I noticed, kind of going back to the conversation we had yesterday on the deep dive, was kind of looked like he got pushed down the lineup after that. Like Lane Lambert, it was only a couple minutes into the game, it felt like, but Lane Lambert was just like, you know what? You can't be doing stuff like that, right? You can't be making mistakes like that coming back. And I look at this one, and Mason Marchment, second fewest ice time of any forward for the Kraken this evening, right? And I think that he's kind of struggled to get going here so far to start the season. And with the Kraken, I think that they haven't really found the place for him. I'm totally with you. Like, the penalty is completely unacceptable. There's no reason to take that penalty. No reason to put your team in that spot when you're leading late at all. It's not a good penalty to take. You're not saving a goal. You're not saving a good opportunity. You can't do that. But I do think that, as we saw again, kind of some winger shuffling around between Shane Wright and Chandler Stevenson in this one, it really does look like they were having a hard time kind of finding where Marchment can fit into this lineup, and where he's going to kind of be long term with this group, as we kind of saw him bump for Ty Cartier through a lot of this one.
Yeah, we did. And I don't know. I haven't loved the fit with Stevenson. I haven't loved the fit with Shane Wright. And we saw it on that breakdown on the first goal that you mentioned, where Marchment kind of went for one guy, left the other guy back door. And that's the one that I can kind of, like, to Viren's point, I can kind of excuse that one because it's a quick play. It's a transition play. It's not like that penalty were just totally inexcusable. But still, yeah, he's looked off. From the start of the season, I think I mentioned, like, on the podcast, that I would like to see him with Matty Beniers. I think that's a great fit. Don't do it now, because the Matty line is buzzing. Don't mess with it. But if the time comes where that sort of thing needs a change, I think he might fit well with Matty.
Yeah. The one player with less ice time than Mason Marchment up front today was, of course, Yanni Newman. And we have a big super chat here from Kendall to get to next. And that is Yanni goal. Need to see more Shane, though. That goal from Yanni Newman, RJ, was, again, yes, it's puck luck. Yes, it's, you just get the opportunity. But it's Yanni Newman putting himself in a dangerous scoring area. And if you look at how that play develops, when Ty Cartier collects that puck and then he goes around the net, Yanni Newman was down, ready, looking for a one-timer opportunity in that low slot. He was in great spot for it. Unfortunately, Montreal kind of shifted his way at the last second. So Ty Cartier wisely held onto the puck, didn't try to throw it to him right there. But Yanni Newman understanding where to go and getting rewarded for battling for that premium real estate net front there with the lucky bounce kind of off Montreal and then off of him.
Yeah, I like to see that. And I thought Jess Campbell did a really good job talking about that in the second intermission, talking about how they've been emphasizing with Yanni. Yes, he likes to shoot. Of course, that's going to continue, but he also has that big body that he can use. And that's something they've been trying to work with him on. And so I like seeing that side of him, because net front presence, as we said before, it's going to be huge for this whole team, first line to fourth.
Yeah. He's trying so hard on the forechecking too. I do want to give him credit. He goes out there, he tries to forecheck hard. I think the skating is holding him back a little bit when it comes to some of that, and just not understanding the anticipation of how other teams break out in the NHL. But I think once he figures that stuff out, he might be able to get some more regular playing time. And again, one day we'll see about the power play. But I did like that from him. And then the second half of Kendall's super chat there, need to see more from Shane. I mean, we get the beautiful feed over to Jaden Schwartz for that power play goal, get the Kraken on the board, tie the game up at that point. But again, another game. Did Shane even register a shot? He didn't have one into the third period. Yeah, another game with no shot for Shane Wright. It looks like 13-15 of ice time. Again, there's opportunities there for him. He just doesn't really seem to be wanting to go out there and be aggressive in the offensive zone at all.
Yeah, and this one, I hate to say it, I'm going to be a little tough on Shane right here, but he's not really aggressive offensively, and then I'm going to put a little bit of blame here on him on that first goal.
Yeah.
Mason Marchment does, I think, pick the wrong player and leave Newhook there at the back door, but the reason he has to choose one player or another, I think he chooses wrong. But Shane Wright, he was slow back checking. There just wasn't a whole lot of effort there from him, and I believe it was toward the start of a shift too. It was kind of coming off a face-off. You have to move your feet there, buddy. And that's the kind of thing that Coach Lambert is going to be looking at. And so another low ice time game for Shane Wright, 13-15, third fewest on the team. But when there's that effort play like that in the first period, Lane Lambert's going to reduce his ice time, and I can't fully blame him for it.
Right. Again, this is the way that Lane Lambert's running the team. I don't really have an issue with it where you're going to kind of directly reward effort, directly punish effort. I think that that's an appropriate thing to do, especially early on in the season, because you are trying to set a tone and you are trying to get across to this group that playing this structured game is going to be how you're going to go out there and win. And again, it is working, right? If we look at the macro, 5 points out of 6 games, everything is fine there, right? Like that's the best start we could have ever hoped for realistically, right? So I think that all of that is good, but I do think that, yeah, at some point Shane's just got to get a little hungry for it, and I just don't feel like it's in him right now.
Yeah. Now, while we're on the topic of opportunity and accountability, though, I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you about something. I was really curious what you think. And that's Chandler Stevenson, who does
Yes.
seem kind of immune from that whole thing.
Yes.
Led the forwards in ice time by a whole lot, 21-26. He was
Hmm.
clearly the team's number one center in this game by deployment.
Yeah.
Played a ton in this one. And I thought for most of the game, he was among the team's worst forwards. I mean, certainly statistically, numbers wise, he was getting caved in when on the ice. He had that brutal turnover, and it didn't really seem to affect the opportunity he was getting. I don't know. Are you okay with that? Would you like, how big of an issue is that? Because I really just didn't like seeing that. I know Shane Wright didn't do anything to kind of earn that time instead, but maybe a little more to Matty Beniers, a little less to Chandler Stevenson.
That is what I was surprised about, is that Matty Beniers' line did not get more of those opportunities that kind of seemingly Chandler Stevenson was leaving available for somebody to come and take from him, particularly after that brutal turnover that leads to the Cole Caulfield goal. And I did think in the third period, we saw Chandler Stevenson utilized less and the Matty line started taking over more. I do think it's interesting. 5-on-5, Lane Lambert seems to have no problem going with Matty Beniers, and that line, I believe, through all three games has led in ice time at 5-on-5. It's the special teams usage from Chandler Stevenson that's what gives him that like 3-minute cushion over Matty Beniers for the game as a whole, because he's out there on the first unit power play with Matty, but then he's also out there. Is he on first unit PK duty? He
I
seems
think,
like
yeah,
he's out there
yes,
all the
it's for
time
the
on the
D zone
PK.
faceoffs.
Yeah.
He's one of their bigger penalty killers. And the thing is, I see, actually, did it end up that way? Because I see, if you look at the lines on Money Puck, that Matty's line did end up going above Stevenson's line as far as 5-on-5
Right.
ice time. But there were a bunch of like odd Stevenson ones that were out there
Yes,
for a
that
minute
kind
when
of
he was
add up.
centering that add up. Yeah. So Stevenson, yeah, Schwartz, Stevenson, Tolbert also got 407. So like Stevenson at 5-on-5 was still the 1C by quite a bit.
Right. And so, look, the way Chandler Stevenson has been playing this year, and we'll get to comments here in a second. Sorry,
Yeah.
everybody. The defense has not been there, right? It's been standard Chandler Stevenson defense, and I don't even just mean like the turnover that leads to the Cole Caulfield goal, right? Like, that is egregious, obviously, but it's not like he's doing that every time he's out there or anything, or every game. It's also just like kind of similar to Shane Wright, although he's at least getting shots on goal. There's not a ton of offensive output from him either. And it doesn't feel like his lines are generating that much offense either, right? Like him and Shane Wright keep trading wingers. They keep going for all these different combinations between the two of them. I don't feel like either line has been able to come close to the production that Matty Beniers' line has had in terms of not just shot quality and generating chances, but just possession in the offensive zone, right? Getting cycles going, holding onto the puck, forcing the other team to do something. Like, I don't really know what is being created when Chandler Stevenson is out there on the ice right now. And certainly the analytics, again, it's a 3-game sample size, or you just look at the analytics from tonight, they are not showing that anything's being created when Chandler Stevenson's out there through most of this game, sub 2% with the expected goal share, which is horrendously low. I did not know it could be that low, to be perfectly honest. So it's one of those things where I kind of keep expecting to see something shift around Chandler Stevenson there. But I think as long as he's just the veteran and he's going to be used on special teams, he's just going to get these minutes and at the expense of the young guys.
Yeah, this is the trade-off you're going to see with kind of a win now, veteran friendly defense first coach like Lane Lambert. The vets are going to get favored.
Yep, definitely. Got this one here from Sean, a super chat. Appreciate it, Sean. Good to see you in here again. Let's celebrate Ty just a little bit. Loved his game tonight. Ty Cartier did have a good game tonight, and he did get rewarded. Like I said, it seemed like he kind of jumped Marchment in the lineup for a little bit there. I thought Ty Cartier played a fantastic game. Obviously gets the assist on the Yanni Newman goal. The puck luck there kind of goes their way. But I liked his thought process on that sequence, RJ. And then again, the physical presence and the energy that he's bringing. He's maybe not, the defender that Ryan Winterton is through the neutral zone and kind of guarding the transition from the other teams. But Ty Cartier is really doing a good job of preventing other teams from getting the breakouts that they want, because he is just flying around in that offensive zone, throwing his body around.
Yeah, and he's doing his job. That's exactly what his job is. He's not, I don't think, going to stand out a whole lot. He does pick up a point in this one off that, kind of funny bounce of a goal, but it's because his line was in the offensive zone, cycling the puck. And when they're there, that means Montreal can't be in the Kraken zone, creating offense and doing the things that they want to do. So again, I've been tough on Ty Cartier through training camp and preseason and just thinking, okay, we've kind of seen enough. We know what this player is. But I will say, to start the season, he's done his job. He hasn't been
Mhm.
super flashy or anything, but he's done his job.
Yeah, he feels like
And
he's
that's all he needs
elevated.
to do.
Right, he's elevated his game enough to be in the lineup every night and to be a regular contributor on this team in the depth role that he's always going to kind of be in. So, but 6 hits again for him tonight. He had 6 back on Saturday. He is definitely making his presence felt. If you're the other team out there, at some point you're going to have to deal with him stepping up in your face there. So, appreciate all the super chats there. Everybody going to get into the comment section here.
Can we
Well, the
start
winning.
off? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry,
What?
like toward the bottom, actually, because everyone right
Yeah.
now is just talking about the Shane Wright booing thing,
Okay.
which I
Okay.
think we ought to address.
Yes, we can
Some
do
questions
that.
even about like why is he being booed, asking for the backstory and all that.
Yeah.
So Shane Wright was, there was his draft year. Actually, the draft was in Montreal. Rumors that he might go first overall to Montreal. They pass on him. He falls to the Kraken at number 4. They take Yuri Slavkovsky instead. And then there were some reports that he had stared down the Montreal draft table. Shane has denied it from the day of onwards. But there's always been that little bit of a rivalry there. And that's why the booing, although it still doesn't make really any sense to me, given
I
it's the
was gonna say.
team that passed on him.
Right. It makes no sense. It's not like this was not like an Eric Lindros situation, right? Where he was like, "Oh, I refuse to go to Montreal. I would
He would
hate
have
to
been
be a part."
excited to go there.
Right. I would hate to be a part of this historic franchise and to play in my home country and all of that, right? It's not like Shane Wright ever did that. So it does not make sense. This is just though the reality I feel like of sports in the internet age where again, you get caught just weird candid photo time where you just happen to be processing what's going on in the moment. It looks, somebody takes it a certain way. They throw a caption on that photo on Instagram, on Reddit, on Twitter, and that becomes the narrative, right? Like that's just unfortunately the world we live in. These are the kinds of things that the media coach prospects for now. It's kind of crazy. We saw it with Mertka uh, getting drafted this year with Buffalo, right? There's like just 1 second where his face kind of drops because he's exhausted, and the picture happens to get taken there. And again, if I'm seeing it all over Reddit again today, just because it's like the state of the Buffalo Sabres franchise, and it's just like, come on, this is not what we should be doing. That's not at all what Mirka was thinking in that moment. Just like with Shane Wright, it's not at all what he was thinking in that moment where he was not trying to stare down the Canadiens front office for passing on him at 1. I don't, fans, they need something. It's a, it's the way they are. The Canadian markets, we talk about it all the time on Red Glare with the Leafs, right? Like Montreal is better than Toronto, but not by like a huge margin.
Yeah, no, and it's the kind of thing where clickbait just kind of rules everything. It rises at the top, and everyone wants to have that narrative around it. So, but I mean, the Montreal fans certainly fueling that with the booing tonight. Again, I don't know, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me
Yeah.
in that case.
Best way to shut him up is just keep doing what he's doing, which is collecting points whenever he plays them, it seems like. So that's
Yeah.
all good stuff. Yeah. But yes, you'd think if a franchise like Montreal would have plenty to be excited about and just be happy about, including winning the
Yeah.
game tonight, by the way.
Well, I don't know, like it sucks because there were moments where I was really impressed with the crowd, especially early on in the game, like noticing just very little things, and the cheers, the boos, everything. You can tell just how locked in and engaged they are on the game, and I really do respect that.
Mhm.
And but then just certain things like that, I'm like, guys,
I
come
mean,
on.
it was also around the time that they had like blown the lead that they had had, the
Well,
multiple
that's true.
leads they
Yeah,
had throughout the
yeah.
game. So I think the fans were kind of upset with that, and maybe game 3 for them is or 4 for them is a little early to be booing their own team. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
wouldn't be in Toronto if Mitch Marner was still there. I know that.
Yes.
They would have found a way. All right. So yeah, up in the
Kraken are
comments.
going to get plenty of boos in Toronto through no fault of their own.
I was gonna
coming up on
say,
this
what a
road trip.
time. Julia and I were talking about this during this game. What a time for the Kraken Canadian road trip, right? While the Mariners are playing the Blue Jays and everything like that. And that Toronto game just happens to be like kind of right in the middle of the series. It's
I
good
guess I
stuff.
could excuse a little extra animosity from Canadian fans towards Seattle at the moment. It makes a little sense.
I was gonna say it's like kind of the one time that all of these Canadian cities are going to hate Seattle. Like when was the last time they hated Seattle for any reason? It's been a minute.
Yep.
It's been a minute, so we'll kind of give it to him there. Got a super chat here from Leanne. Thank you so much for this, Leanne. Really appreciate it. Hey everyone, happy Kraken season. My boy Jared is on fire, and I'm loving every second of it. Yes, Jared McCann is off to a torrid pace to start this season. RJ picks up another 2 points in this one, another goal, beautiful goal in this one. I mean, Jared McCann is going to lead the team in points again, right? Like this is kind of what he does. But I'm wondering if this is the year that he starts pushing towards that like point per game pace, or at least clears 70.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him score 40 goals before. We've seen him up near that pace already, and he's certainly starting it off that way. And I love the goal tonight. Probably it might be, I don't know. I love the overtime goal the other day. I was like, it might be my favorite McCann goal of the season. But I think just what makes him really special is that shot, and he's the closest player the Kraken really have who can make something out of nothing. We've talked about
Mhm.
the Kraken's lack of a star forward who can just kind of create a goal out of nowhere when you need it. But this was one of those plays from Jared McCann where he has a shot. It is in a dangerous area because he collects that puck quickly, but that's one that with most players, the goalie probably stops. But because he
Mhm.
gets that release off so fast, he creates a goal where there otherwise wouldn't be one. And that's what he does that's so special. And he's the only Kraken player who's anywhere close to being able to do that on a regular basis. And you see the difference that it makes in a game like this. That was a huge goal.
Yeah, he's on pace for 82 of them this season so far.
Yeah, yeah, 3 goals in 3 games. I would love to see that from him. Even, like, defensively, he's been solid. It doesn't really get talked about as much. Like, I'll even talk about a goal against, but, you know, when the Kirby Dach goal that just kinda deflected in off a Dach there for Montreal,
Mhm.
look at McCann net front. That's his guy, but he's taking away the stick. He's
Yep.
completely neutralizing the player in front of him. Sometimes you play everything right and a bounce just doesn't go your way, but, like, Doc's stick is up in the air. Like that's how
Yeah.
much McCann is taking it away. Like I love the defense from him too, even though he didn't get rewarded for it.
Yeah, no, and that coming right off of the Yanni Newman kind of lucky bounce in favor of the Kraken.
It
Put
evened
in
out.
Discord that puck luck giveth, puck luck taketh away. But yeah, Jared McCann, one of the Kraken MVPs to start this season for sure, and appreciate going with the jersey number there, Leanne, for the super chat. And then another super chat here from JTB Hockey. When Kako returns, how do you see the ice time being distributed? Who gets bumped down? Already having the Capo Kako return discussion, RJ, here, 3 games into the season. I think you'd have to look at wanting to pair him with Matty Beniers again, just because of the chemistry they had through a lot of last year. It's possible that they'll want to ease Capo Caco back into the lineup, though, so you might not see him replace Jordan Eberle up there right away. But I think right now, the way a lot of the wingers are playing, and particularly the way the other centers aren't really gelling with any of their wingers, I think it's very possible that Capo Caco gets the opportunity to run with both Shane Wright and Chandler Stevenson to try to find a place in that middle six right now, or if he is with Chandler Stevenson, I guess top line, kind of in that role and opportunity there with one of those guys, just to see if there's some chemistry there, because Lane Lambert is still looking for that with those guys.
Yeah, I think it's really going to depend on that first line, the Matty line, if they feel they can break that up. Because I think the easiest thing to do there for Kako would be to take Eberle off of there and just have McCann, Beniers, and
Mhm.
Kako, and that'd be a really good line. But if you don't want to mess with it, if they're still playing really well, then yeah, just try them with the Stevenson or Wright and just see if you can build any chemistry there. You're going to have to kind of play around with it, I think.
Yeah. All right, so let's do a little speed run here through things. Trish and James both happily taking the OTL point in this one. I'm right there with them. Ethan, remember when Dylan said we'd have a lot of overtime games with this new style of play? Good call. Did not think it would be four games going into overtime, RJ. That was not the idea. Andy, no shame in that loss. Good game. Happy to take the loser point. Very much the vibes in this one. And then, of course, got to join everybody in congratulating Maddie on buying a house today.
Yeah, congrats, Matty. That is huge.
Yep.
Big, big news.
Definitely. And then talking here about that late penalty, both from Walt and Lindsay, and how you just can't do that if you are Mason Marchment, which is definitely true. Uh, Cole, this is proof of concept to me that we can be competitive all year against nearly any opponent. They were able to battle back, which we hadn't seen yet. And I think it's notable, RJ, to kind of go back to the discussion we had at the beginning of Post Game Live, which is that they did battle back, and they battled back not once but twice, and then a third time. That I think is really impressive because it's not just like, okay, they can summon it up to do it once, maybe twice. They get lucky on that second one, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, the vibes are right tonight. No, they do it three times, and then they get a lead in the third period, and that's something that we had just talked about kind of last game, right? Like, are we going to be able to see them rally? And it wasn't a multi-goal comeback in this one. We haven't seen that yet this year, but are they going to be a team that's capable of doing that? How much are they going to have to sacrifice defensively to do that? And what I think I was most impressed with in this one, RJ, was not just that they kept the compete level up, because as great as that was to see, and especially after last year when we didn't see that, that should kind of just be the standard. Like, that should just be the standard as a professional athlete. But they had that. It's the fact that they didn't really sacrifice systems wise. They did not sacrifice on the other end. It did not turn into a back and forth affair where Montreal was having dangerous opportunities coming back the other way because the Kraken are having to pinch up super aggressively with one of their defensemen. There were no odd man rush opportunities really for Montreal as the Kraken were trying to get back into this game. Again, maybe if you're down by 2, that changes, but it felt like the Kraken were able to still generate offense without having to sacrifice the identity that they've working so hard to build.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because it can all fall apart when you pinch too much or you sacrifice. And down one, you don't have to, especially at the moments in that game. It was never super late where you think, okay, now we need to sell out. And I think that's something that Coach Lambert, as much as he probably won't like about the details of this game, I think he's going to be proud of that part of the way that they played. And he mentioned it the other day. They stayed patient. And as Lambert said, impatience is death in the game of hockey.
Yep.
And they never got impatient. And I think that was the reason they were able to keep coming back.
Right. And it is one of those, like, okay, you give up that goal, 5 minutes in, 4.5 minutes into the first period, you got 55 minutes to get back in it. Right. Like, it's one goal. Focus on limiting those opportunities for Montreal. It still took them a good 6 or 7 minutes to do that after that goal was scored. Don't get me wrong. It was not a great first period. Better than the Ducks' first period, but it was still probably their second worst period of the year so far. But they did a good job of doing that. And then again, as we've been talking about all along, if you're going to be playing these close, low event style games, special teams becomes really important. And you see them get that power play, first power play where they're, it's actually just going to be a full 2-minute power play because you had all that mess earlier with the trading of interference calls off of picks, which never happens in the National Hockey League. That was crazy. But they do get that power play, and you're able to get on the board there and take advantage of that. And I think that, again, that's notable. Again, Kraken, it's only going to say 1 of 4. Doesn't really tell the whole story on this one, which was kind of Allison Lucan's point during the first intermission. But I think the power play is really working this year, and that's going to be big in keeping them in games like this without them having to sacrifice too much on the back end.
Yeah, and I think it really, looking at this team, you're probably going to need, if it's a game where there's a few power plays each way, if each team has 4 or 5 power plays, you're probably going to need 1 power play goal in order to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Lots of stuff we've already kind of touched on here, George, with the Shane versus Stevenson discussion that we had. Lindsay, the opening night, big intro delay definitely impacted them. They looked just like the Anaheim game to start the first. Do you think that had an impact on the Kraken? The Montreal kind of going over on time there a little bit?
Maybe. I feel like it shouldn't at this point. They played a few games. If it was just the season opener, then maybe I'd say so, but it really shouldn't. Especially because they're on the East time zone, right? So they're still
Yeah.
early on on their game clock. If it was the other way around, and it's, you're talking an Eastern team coming to the West, and it's a delayed game, you're at 10:30 local start time from what your body's used to, then maybe, but not in this case.
Yeah, and it's one of those things I don't think any team would admit to it either. Like if it was true, they're definitely not going to say that it is. Christian, with this one, they said Lane Lambert's system is defense focused and boring. So far, it's not boring, but how can they tighten up the defense moving forward? And this was definitely part of the discussion happening over on Discord in the game chat, RJ, which was everybody being like, "This game is not boring," and I do think that it's worth talking about that. So far, they are playing structured defensive system. They have that identity and they are sticking to it. The games are low event, right? These are low shot totals, 22 versus 22 in this one. That's not a lot of shots in today's modern day NHL, but the game was not boring really at all, right? Like you still got that excitement as each team was going in to the zone and trying to set things up. I don't know that the games are going to be as boring as Jared McCann was trying to make it out to be last game.
I mean, look, this one certainly wasn't boring. No argument there. But I think there were a lot of elements of this one that were maybe not the way that Lane Lambert would want it to be played. I think Lane Lambert, if it was up to him, this game would have been a lot more boring than it was.
Oh, yeah. Montreal had 22 shots too many, if you ask Lane Lambert.
But yeah, exactly. That's true. You want Montreal to have 0 shots. Exactly. So, to an extent, right? NHL coaches, of course, are going to want a boring game all around. And it's not just Lane Lambert. I think any NHL coach, if it was fully up to them and they could control everything, they would have it be a very boring game of hockey. That's just what NHL head coaches do. But still, I just think, because a lot of the intrigue was in the shifts of momentum with the goals, right?
Yeah.
If there were all these, if same amount of chances, but just a few of them didn't go in, or you didn't have the mistakes on either side, or like you get one where it's a fluky bounce on each side, where it's the Newman goal and the Dot goal, I think it gets a little less exciting of a game.
It looks like the third period against Vegas.
Right. And I'm sorry, that's boring. That is absolutely boring. It works, but it's boring to me.
Yeah. Again, this is what I've been asking for since day one with the Kraken. So like strong X's and O's, boring hockey is exciting for me. So I will always disagree with it, but I will say I think that it's not going to be as boring all the time, in part because when the Kraken are able to, fully execute on the system, which is not just limiting what the other team wants to do, but also then breaking the puck out, getting up the ice quick, trying to catch that other team off guard and either get a 2-on-2 or a 2-on-1 opportunity going the other way. Those moments are always going to be exciting for Kraken fans, right? Specifically. And I think that based on how this team has played, you're guaranteed to get 5 or 6 of those a game, right? Which are going to have you on the edge of your seat, and you're going to really be watching to see what the Kraken can do, because there is going to be a scoring opportunity coming off of those, right? It's going to be a big stop on the back end. They're able to push the puck up the ice with speed, and then they're going to be able to get a good scoring chance. And so I think it's not going to be as boring as it otherwise could be. I think that these teams are this team is built a little bit better to do that, and have a little bit more faith in some of the pieces that they have than, say, those Lane Lambert Islanders teams, where there was very few opportunities for that to get exciting. So I think it's not going to be as boring as we initially thought, but I am with you. Most games are probably not going to be 9 total goal efforts like what we saw tonight.
Yeah, and I see that perspective, and we got some people at the bottom of chat kind of chiming in on the boring conversation, and Ethan saying, in all honesty, the defensive systems are kind of fun to watch. Maybe it's just because the last couple Kraken teams seem to have almost 0 grit. And then Kendall saying it's more exciting because they're just not giving the puck up constantly. I think after the last couple seasons of what we've seen, where there is no identity and it's just the same mistakes over and over again, it wasn't boring, but it certainly was soul crushing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you certainly take this because it's exciting in its own way to see that they are playing with a system, playing with effort, playing with focus, things like that. It's its own kind of excitement.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so we'll see as the season goes on, right? Kraken Queen passing looks so much better this season. I thought this was another good game for their passing. I thought it was actually their worst game in terms of passing. There was a couple times where I saw some plays in the offensive zone that I feel like the Kraken, they see them a little bit too late to make the pass. Now, to their credit, what we're not seeing like last year is them realizing it a little too late and still sending the pass. They're holding on to it instead and then going for another pass with the cycle. But I feel like there's still the way that they're moving in the offensive zone, guys are getting open. It's just that they're, the other forward or whoever it is that has the puck, it feels like they're just not quite seeing them in time yet. But I feel like that's one of those things where as the season progresses and as they just play more and more, they're going to start connecting on those opportunities. And we're going to really start seeing a team that in the offensive zone is able to capitalize on a lot more chances.
Yeah, and I see B brought this up too about overskated passes, and I saw some people also bringing up the ice quality and asking if that
Yep.
played a factor. I really think this is just one of those things that, we remember last season, Coach Dan said it's going to take about 20 games to kind of get everything really locked in and in sync. And I mean, we're seeing that it's certainly not taking that long for this Lane Lambert team to get the important things and what matters. But the passing, especially in those situations, is one of those things where I think, yeah, it probably does take about 20 games before it's that full finished product consistently night in, night out.
Yeah, and again, also for some of these lines, it might just come down to finding that chemistry that it looks like they're still searching for as well.
Yeah.
Garrett with the interesting comment here. I feel like we should have thrown Stevenson out after the timeout in overtime. They clearly had the play drawn up in overtime, and they were able to execute. Of course, talking about the game-winning goal from Cole Caulfield there. Matty Beniers loses that draw, and then Montreal is able to run that play, get Cole Caulfield that time and space, and he's able to walk in. And, execute a great shot on Joey. Like that's not most guys aren't scoring in that situation. It's just because Cole Caulfield's a special goal scorer there. But defensive zone, big important defensive zone draw, like that is traditionally where we do see Chandler Stevenson.
Yeah, and he's been winning those of late too. I mean, that's been huge for the Kraken in those key situations like the 3-on-3. I don't know, it's tough. They did have that play drawn up, but again, you look at the play they actually get off of it, and I mean, that's a shot that 3-on-3 you kind of have to give up most of the time. If you try and take that away, you're probably going to leave something worse open. That's just one of those where it's like, hey, if you can hit it, good for you, because it's such a low percentage shot. And so, and Joey does cheat over just a little bit for that centering pass. So he gambles there and he loses, but again, it's still such a hard shot for the player to hit. Most of the time, if you gamble and guess it wrong, the player still can't hit that.
Yeah. Stratic, Seattle has 10 wins, 7 losses, 1 tie, and a plus 27 goal differential versus Montreal since 1917. So love the the stat tracking there. Over 100 years worth of stat tracking there from Stratic. Appreciate that in here. Evan asking if anybody else picked up the PWHL season tickets today. I mean, the season tickets, the ticket packages, and single games went up right now. So just want to remind everybody that all that's coming. Season kicks off in mid-November, and then opening night is November 28th at Climate Pledge Arena. So I just want to remind everybody about that. Christian asking, would Lane Lambert bench Stevenson? I think we're a long ways off from benching Stevenson. What's going to be really interesting, RJ, is they are technically coming off of a loss now. Do you think we see a lineup shuffle, maybe a Berkeley Catton appearance or something going into the next game? I feel like the only guy that probably you could bench would be Marchment. And I don't know that we're at the point where Marchment's going to be moved out of the lineup, but do you think we maybe see like Yanni Newman rotated out for an evening?
I certainly wouldn't mind it, although after he scores a goal in this one,
I know it would be a terrible time.
It's tough to do, right? So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go right back with this lineup because I just don't know who you take out unless you're willing to take out a vet, and I don't know that Lambert's willing to do that. So clearly, it's not bothering them that Berkeley Catton's not getting any playing time. So why not one more game?
Yeah. So we'll see. I
Garrett pointing out Catton did take warm-ups tonight, which is something.
You got to keep him fresh, I guess. Gotta make sure the legs are still well oiled out there. I would think that Ottawa. Ottawa can be a pretty physical team. I don't know. Would you if you had to pick one of the next
Brady
two?
Tkachuk's out of the lineup.
Right. They're still a physical team, though.
No, they are. They are.
But that is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, as you always say, Dylan, you can't coach scared. You can't be worried about those kinds of things. Maybe if you're playing a game against a really good opponent that you're thinking, oh man, we're going to just get caved in. It's like you can be strategic that way, but I don't think you can coach scared as far as a young kid. Like, look, every team's going to have players that are going to be physical and capable of making a big hit. if you put yourself in the wrong situation. Like Ellie Tolvanen can do that to people, if you line yourself up for it. Like you can't be scared.
Yeah. No, it's true. I would still go with him in that
Also, if you're
Ottawa
really
game.
that concerned about it with Berkeley Catton, that playing the Ottawa Senators scares you so much that he's at so much risk, send him back to Spokane. You're clearly not prepared to play
Yeah.
him in games or amount that matters in the NHL.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying the team feels that way, but I was like, if that's the case, then send him
Yeah,
back.
yeah. If that is the case, yeah, it is. It is going to be interesting to see what ends up happening there. It's not the only situation around the league where we're seeing this. I mean, there's Misa up in or down in San Jose. Brady Martin did get 2 starts with Nashville, but now he's been benched for the last 2 games, so we don't know what's going to go on there.
I think they commented on that, saying like that we have a plan for them. We're trying to pick and choose our games. Of course, those are all guys that were from this year's
draft, right? Braden Coots just got sent down back to the Seattle Thunderbirds from Vancouver. So if you're T-Birds fan in the audience, you're getting your boy back. That's going to be big for Seattle. So yeah, it's we'll see. And yeah, I know it's different because they're technically a year younger and they're from the most recent draft class. But again, I feel like when you're talking about top 10 picks, it's all kind of the same. Like you're all trying to do this. And it's interesting because it feels like we're just at the forefront of what is going to be kind of how these kinds of players are handled, whether it's their first year, their D+1 or their D+2. I think a lot of these top picks, this is going to be the strategy where you have them on the roster and then you pick and choose their starts, Leo Carlson style. Like I really do think the Ducks, Pat Verbeek of all people, is going to have started a trend that people are going to want to replicate because it at least seems that that's what's going on here, which,
I don't know that you want to replicate Pat Verbeek started trend personally. Like this is definitely
I don't know either.
Right now. I don't know that I agree with it. In fact, I think I don't, but this certainly is something that's trendy among NHL teams. Like we are seeing that.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see like how long this goes and what the end result is. I mean, it seems to have worked pretty well for Leo Carlson in Anaheim. Leo Carlson has developed into a wonderful 2-way center for them. So, it's possible that this is kind of just the new way of thinking, and there might be analytics that back it up as well that say getting 35 to 45 NHL games that first year is better for you than playing 60, 70 WHL games. Like it's very possible that the numbers back that up and we just don't know about it because again, it's an extremely limited sample size and group. I just want to throw it out there that the Kraken are not the only team doing this. Like it's not just a Kraken thing.
Yeah, and Kylie pointing out here, thinks that they're stretching Catton's games to the World Juniors. In the meantime,
Definitely.
He's still around and everything. That is definitely the plan. We didn't talk about it on the deep dive this week because we talked about it the prior week, but I think it's worth at least mentioning recently here that definitely seems to be the plan. And so, yeah, I think the Kraken play 35 games or so by the time of the World Juniors. That's only 9 games out of 35. That means a lot of healthy scratch nights. That's just what it's going to mean.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Medeiros in here, and it's great to see you again, Medeiros.
Oh, yeah.
Hope you're doing well. Hope the family's doing well, all that stuff. This could be me barely watching a game for 1.5 seasons, but my gut reactions have been scrappy, if not sloppy. I'm sure that comes down to chemistry in terms of blind passes behind you. You're on it for previous years, and there was some issues passing tonight, like we talked about earlier. But Medeiros, now's the time to get back on board. The way this team is playing under Lane Lambert, we just talked about it. It might be a little bit boring, but this team has that effort back from those early seasons. I know you remember it, Medeiros. You were around for all of that stuff. And I do think that this team, just RJ, watching the games, even a game like tonight where it's back and forth, you're getting into a higher scoring game than you plan on and you probably should be in realistically, but they find a way to pick up a point, right? It just kind of has the vibes of year 2 where it's just like the team is just going to kind of find a way based off of effort.
Yeah, and hey, Medeiros, if you're going to miss a year and a half of Kraken hockey,
you picked the right ones.
You picked a good year and a half. So yeah, but this team, I mean, I think this game certainly, I would say scrappy but sloppy. The Vegas game was just scrappy and not sloppy at all. Mm-hmm. And the Ducks game was very scrappy and maybe a little bit sloppy. So we've seen kind of each of the three, but it's been scrappy every single night, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, definitely. Sean, Ottawa or Philly feel like the best opportunities for Catton, but wouldn't be shocked if it's further down the road. I wouldn't either. Again, like there could be some worry physically with the Philadelphia game, but yeah, definitely Philadelphia. Why not put him out there against that team? Like that team's got nothing going for it right now.
Yeah, that's another one. Like if you're scared of the Flyers,
Yeah,
what
that's
are you
true.
doing?
Yes. Yeah, you might be living in the 70s. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Cheryl asking, what is the logic behind picking and choosing the games for younger player development? It's just about putting them in strong positions to go out there and build confidence and be able to get good amount of playing time. It used to be that all of these guys would ease into the lineup. They'd start on the fourth line. They'd get, I mean, the minutes that Yanni Newman's getting. What did Yanni Newman have tonight? 9.5 minutes. You go back to Shane Wright in his D+1 year, and he was getting even less than that. He was getting 6 or 7 minutes a night. And so the idea is that it's better to have your player play half the games, but be able to play in a top 9 role, get 13 minutes of ice time instead, but only get half the amount of overall games. But that way they can at least build into a rhythm during a game. They can go out there, they can have enough minutes to actually be learning lessons on the ice. Because when you're only playing 6 to 9 minutes, there's not a lot of opportunities to really learn in different situations when you're out there on the ice the way that you can if you play a little bit longer. And so the idea is to put them in game situations where they're going to be against opponents where you're going to be able to give them that ice time. They're going to be able to learn those lessons, and it's not going to go too poorly for them, right? It's a bad team. They can try to build confidence with the good plays. They're not going to get crushed if they make a mistake out there, because the other team's probably not going to totally take advantage of it because they're bad. But that is the general idea with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important looking at it like Leo Carlson, the example there. In his first season, he played only 55 games because they picked and chose those games, but he averaged over 18 minutes of ice time in those 55
Mhm.
games. He was getting real opportunity. And that's the thing I want to keep an eye out for when Berkeley Catton does eventually see the lineup, is that you got to let him get into a rhythm. You actually have to give him proper opportunities. If he gets in the lineup and he's playing 6 to 7 minutes the way that Shane Wright was when they had him a couple of years ago and I think mishandled the situation, then I'm going to have a problem with it, because a player really can't learn in that kind of a limited role, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's also about getting them to be able to play with players that are going to be skilled players who can help them out in those situations. It's great to be on the fourth line, but yeah, is Berkeley Catton going to really be able to build a lot of confidence and get away with the things that he wants to get away with in the offensive zone if he's playing with, Ty Cartier? Right? Versus being able to go out there and play with like Tolvaden or better, right? So
Yeah. All it
it's
takes is
one
a
of those
top
things
nine
too.
player, and the Kraken have so many top nine guys you could put him with.
Yeah. Yeah, those opportunities are there. I'm still interested to see if they're going to play him on the wing or not.
Right. I mean, well, they'd have to move like say Gaudreau over,
Hmm.
right? If they're not, and then that kind of locks him into maybe a 4C
Yeah,
type of role.
it
They
feels
ought to
like
play
he's
him on the
got
wing.
to be on
Look
the
at the
wing.
preseason. He played so much better on the wing. I
So
don't know
much
how
better.
you see that in the preseason and then not put him at wing to start,
Yeah, no, so
short of a
much
center
better.
injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lindsay Hockey Fiend in here. It's tough being a Kraken fan and a Spokane Chief fan. I just want whatever is best for Catton, but it's tough not seeing him play right now. Chiefs are tied 2-2 right now with Medicine Hat. 16 minutes left in the third period there. Yes, it is definitely got to be tough for the Chiefs not having him down there right now. It's still a good team. Bardsley's still got him pretty, set up pretty good, but it's definitely tough.
But yeah, like you're keeping away the best player maybe in the dub this year if he plays for what for this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's that has got to be frustrating there, Lindsay. But hey, good on you. Your heart's in the right place for just wanting whatever's best for Catton,
Yeah,
because that's
that's
the
what it's
mindset I
about.
think we really all have to take. Yeah.
Yeah, that is what it's about for sure. I was trying to pull up the standings to see how the Chiefs are doing right now, but the WHL, all their standings are still for the playoffs. I cannot get regular season standings on the WHL
That's
website.
that's what counts, man.
Yeah,
It's
last year's playoffs. That's what still
yeah.
counts.
Yeah,
All
here we
right.
go. I got it here on Elite Prospects.
Okay.
They are second in the U.S. division here. They
I was gonna
are,
say Everett's
I
been
think,
going off.
yeah, they're 4-3. Looks like Everett 7-0. leading the division. And then, yeah, Spokane 4-3, second place.
Yeah, cannot wait to talk about Julius Miet and what he's doing with the Everett Silvertips on the prospect chat later this month.
Insane numbers. Yeah. Join Dylan for the prospect chat for that. It's good stuff.
It is going to be a lot of fun talking about that. But yeah, that is the situation there with Berkeley Catton, as everybody's kind of talking about down here. Feel free for more stuff. If we skipped over stuff earlier in chat, feel free to throw it back in now down here at the bottom, everybody. Zoe asking how we feel about the power play units so far.
I mean, I like one unit more than the other, but I mean, just the way they're working the puck around, and I would like to see more player movement. I'm with you, Dylan, but it seems like they've really committed to like puck movement is what's going to make it all work. And so far so good. Like they're moving the puck really well, especially down low. Like I love hearing from Jess about kind of the way that power play goal was set up tonight, drawing the Habs players kind of up toward the point and then taking a quick look down low. And she said that's what Montreal gives up. She said something to that effect. Like, and that's the kind of thing they give up. So it tells me they're doing good video work and planning against their particular opponent's PK. So I like that. As for the actual units, like replace Marchment with Newman. Just do that.
I know.
That's the only big change I'd really make right now.
It seems so obvious. Like I don't know what the issue is there. But yeah, I don't really have an issue with the power play units. I like the first power play unit a lot. I like what they're doing. Yeah, again, I'll always ask for more player movement, but you know, there's a lot of time left in the season, right? There's 79 games still to go. That I could see some player movement as they continue to work on the details as they get further and further into this year. Power play, you know, special teams is not the top priority when new coaching staff comes in, right? That kind of comes a little bit later. But I do like that with both the power play and the PK, we are seeing them study what the other team wants to do and then actively working to counter it. We saw that in the Vegas game. The PK played completely different against the Ducks as they did versus the Golden Knights. It worked great at the beginning with the Golden Knights. It's just Golden Knights, good team. They adjusted, and that's how you get that power play goal from them in the third period. There was they kind of shifted what they were trying to do on their power play, and then they were able to get one. But the first couple opportunities for Vegas, Kraken shut them down by really taking away the net front. And then you look at tonight against Montreal. Montreal doesn't want to try to grind and get a bunch of goals net front on the power play. They want to utilize their defensemen. They got great guys on the back end. They want to utilize one-timers from, let's say, Patrick Laine. They were sure forcing that one-timer a lot tonight. And the Kraken saw that, and they noticed that, and they tried their best to take away those passing lanes for those one-timers. Certainly the cross ice ones, right? Like if it's going to get there to whoever's going to be the trigger man for the one-timer, it's going to have to go through the defenseman, and Joey's not going to have to move all the way through his crease to be able to be there for the one-timer. And so I thought that, again, it was impressive that we're seeing different looks on special teams specifically designed to do, you know, or take advantage of what the other team is doing. And I think that is a huge leap forward from special teams last year with the Kraken, because there was none of that last year. Last year was just them all year long trying to figure out what they were doing. There was no room to deal with what the other team was trying to do. This year, they're definitely actively doing that.
Yeah. Shout out to Chris Taylor. It looks great this early on, and he's never run a NHL power play before, so good on him.
Yeah. Virginia Yanni must have listened to the pod. He was shooting more tonight. He looked more comfortable and more confident in this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something naturally he wants to do. Like that's just something that comes naturally to him, is shooting the puck more, and it all just stems from that confidence. And still not a ton of ice time for him tonight, but another nice couple minute bump.
Yeah, no, he did get more opportunities in this one. And again, like I feel like that came at the expense of some of the guys further up the lineup, and I like that from Lane Lambert. It's so refreshing to see that there is in fact accountability with this group and with everything. We'll do a last call here towards the end of Post Game Live. Thank everybody for joining us this evening. Sean talking about, so the league that still has last year's stats up wants to determine where players whose rights are owned by NHL teams gets to play. Makes sense. Talking about how Berkeley should be in the AHL this year. Yeah, thankfully, it sounds like this will be the last year teams are going to have to deal with that, right? Like,
Yep.
progress is still progress, even if it doesn't quite happen as fast as we otherwise hope it would be.
Yeah. And I mean, also, we talked about the situation where like picking and choosing your games, and this is like kind of what's in vogue now for teams, right? It's not going to be the trend for D+1 CHL players next year because that problem's going to be solved. Like, we're not going to see the Berkeley Catton situation, hopefully, ever again.
Yeah. Wow. You just really stealing trendsetter as one of the superlatives for Pat Verbeek. Wow. Just, you can't give that man anything, RJ.
Hey, Beckett Seneca looks really good.
Beckett Seneca looks really good. Yeah, definitely. Christian, thank you, Chris Taylor, for sure. And then also for Christian, just putting this out there, there's a great Mariners documentary on Secret Base on YouTube, the channel Secret Base. Whether you're a baseball fan or not, it'll really show you why the Mariners fan base is so emotional. I know you've watched it, RJ. I've watched it. It is fantastic.
Yes, highly, highly recommend, especially if for some reason you're not familiar with the Mariners, maybe you're not, you're from out of town or whatever, and you're more a Kraken fan than a Mariners fan. Even if you're not a baseball person, Mariners person, it's fantastic. John Boy is one of the best if not the best storyteller in all of sports. Maybe on all of YouTube, he might be top 5. He's excellent. So definitely give that a watch. It was an experience, and now I feel like I understand so much more of what I'm seeing and just everything that every Mariners fan has lived through, whatever you started.
You will definitely, yeah, whether you decide to care and get on board with the Mariners or not, you will understand why, as this Mariners postseason run continues and as these games come back to Seattle, why the city is basically going to shut down every evening for the Mariners. Like, it will give you the context that if you feel like you're missing it and you don't understand why this is happening, that will give it to you. So it is fantastic. Mason asking, won't it still be limited next year? You're gonna have the opportunity to have one 19-year-old down there in the AHL. I've been thinking about this, RJ, and I've been trying to find a world in which the Kraken can use that for Blake Fiddler, because I just feel like he's ready for that. But it's going to be Jake O'Brien. There's no way it's not.
Jake O'Brien needs it more.
He does need it more, is the thing. He does. Blake Fiddler could be fast tracked if they could, they would.
I know. So just the next year he'll hit the ground running. Yeah. He'll be in NHL or he'll hit like 20 and he'll be fine.
Yep. And then 2 things looking ahead here that we can kind of close things out on, RJ. Zoe's asking what's our thoughts on the back-to-back that's kind of coming up. And Sean asking if there's any chance we see a different goalie on Thursday. And I was going to ask you this too. Do you think for that Ottawa game, we maybe see a different goaltender? Do you think it all just waits for the back-to-back? How do you think things are going to be handled in the crease for the Kraken?
As for the Ottawa game, no way. Joey Daccord is starting that game 100%. I mean, watching the Kraken, I've been impressed by a lot of things. I still believe that it requires elite goaltending for any of this to work. Anything short of that, it's not going to work. Maybe they can surprise me on the back-to-back here, but I think a non-Joey goalie is going to get the net in one of these back-to-back games. I would guess the Philly game because Washington is the much tougher opponent. So I would say on Monday at Philadelphia, they probably will go with, I would guess, Grubauer. I think he's going to get the first shot at this. Him being the backup for the home opener and kind of getting the first of the rotation. Mm-hmm. I would imagine it would be him. But other than that, Joey's starting like all these other games.
I agree with you that it'll probably be Grubauer if one of them starts. What do you think the odds are that for that back-to-back we get Matt Murray and Grubauer? Like they just each get one game.
Low. It's early in the season. They're gonna grind Joey into the ground this year. Certainly if they're winning.
Well, that is true. If they're winning, they're not going to kind of mess with it more than they have to. It just feels like at some point you're going to have to get both of these guys in games. And if you're just waiting for basically back-to-backs to start rotating your in net, or at least waiting for Joey to start burning out before you do that, it feels like it could be, like a week into November before Matt Murray potentially gets out there, in which case, why is he on the roster?
Well, he's on the roster because with the injuries, like you don't have to worry about the
Yeah.
roster spots quite yet. And because you were worried about this thing, if you waive a goalie early on in the season, it's a lot more likely they're claimed off waivers, like in that
Yes,
rush of because teams are looking for goalies
for
right now.
sure.
So that's why he's on the roster. I think if anyone, if you had to get rid of a goalie, waive
Well,
Grubauer
yes, you would
because
waive
he's not
Grubauer.
getting picked up. That's the smart
Fine.
thing.
Replace it with Grubauer. My point being, why have 3 goalies if you're going to use one of them a month?
I don't know. I mean, again, just it drives. Look, because I think they want Grubauer to run with this and take the job, and I think having Murray physically there on the roster is they think might be a more of a motivator. I would guess,
Yeah.
and then maybe there's something to that. And Viren asking, so 0 non-back-to-back starts for anyone else? No, there's going to be some over the course of the season, but it's going to be once Joey starts getting burned out, which
Yeah.
is it's too early for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I would start rotating them in sooner just because I worry about Joey burnout becoming an issue. Although I do understand your point about like banking early season points, and that is something the Kraken do need to do. So maybe I am in the wrong there. Let's see from Kitty B Kraken, who will Dylan root for in a Mariners Dodgers series? Mariners 1000%. I grew up a Giants fan living in the Bay Area, so I even if it wasn't the Mariners against the Dodgers, I was rooting against the Dodgers.
Yep. I mean, man, you go
This
way
makes it
back with the
easy.
Mariners. You tore Dan Wilson's ACL.
I was gonna say I ended Dan Wilson's career, but it's okay because I'm up here and I brought him back as manager, so I'm also bringing back Dan Wilson's career. You could argue.
Man, just don't get too close.
I know there's a reason that nobody's invited me to be media for a Mariners game. I'm thinking.
It's because you're annoying to Charles. That's what it is. But
Well, that too. That too. All right, everybody. That's gonna do it for this evening's post game live. Afra's ready to close it out. It sounds like I know Afra almost. Want to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks everybody for all the super chats. Really appreciate that. Can't wait to watch the game on Thursday against Ottawa. Can't wait to watch Mariners game tomorrow. And I hope everybody enjoys that and stays safe through everything. And again, if you can't get into T-Mobile, you can get into the beer hall down there on Occidental, be a part of the experience, be down there near the stadium. You know, it's going to be a big party beforehand. You could be down there for it. Mariners win. It'll be a big party afterwards as well. You could be down there for it, and you could be supporting the beer hall, who has done such a great job throughout the years of supporting us.
yeah, exactly. Beerhall's been with us, from season 2. After that awful first season, they're like, "Hey, we love what you do. We're on board," and they've stayed on board. They're going to continue to be on board, and we will get watch parties. By the way, set up. They're a little bit busy right now,
just a tiny bit. Yeah,
they're like, absolutely, let's go, let's set up the watch party dates, and then the Mariners are doing what they're doing, and so I get it. I get it, but we will get plenty of those set up. It's going to be a lot easier once the Mariners season is over, one way or the other. But looking forward to those as well.
Yep, definitely. And I see that in there, Kendall. Treats for Afra. I am on it. Afra is getting her treats as we speak. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. And we will see you all next time.